Hello, hello. Welcome back. Just give everyone a minute to filter into the chats. Oh, and I was supposed to have a speed run question. I did not tell these guys that. Sorry. We were too busy chatting. I'll give you an easy one. A plotter or a pantster kit. Oh, Kit, we can't hear you.
Sorry, having microphone issues. Can you hear me now? I thought
Yes,
I'd turn that back on. Sorry, if I only have to say one word, I go plotter.
plotter. All right. Kel, how about you? Plotter or pantster?
Hamster. I never know how things are going to end up.
Okay. Krystina?
Uh, a light plotter.
Do you
I
stick to your plot though?
do I yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
Sometimes it goes a little bit off, but nothing crazy.
All right. Fair enough. Lissandra?
I would say plotter with flexibility.
Okay. All right. We're kind of like two and two here. Like it. All right. Welcome to this reading panel. When I was really mean to these guys and give them a very strange topic. It's all dialogue, no context. So these are very dialogue heavy readings. And the idea is that we're just going to plop you into this story with little to no context, and you'll hear this conversation, and it'll give you an idea of what you'll be in for if you read the rest of the book. So to start us off, we have Kel McCord. If everyone else could please stop their video and audio. And Kel, go ahead and introduce yourself and your book, and you can start reading whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Hi, all. I am Kel McCord. I'm going to be reading from my third release today, Experts Only. Before I do, I want to share just a little bit about myself so that way I'm not reading you guys 10 minutes of dialogue. So I've been skiing my whole life. When I was 3 years old, my dad would take us, he would put me between his legs and he would put my little sister in a backpack because nobody cared about safety in the 80s. 15 years ago, I met my wife, and she hates being cold and she hates getting up early. And those two things are essential to skiing. So for years, we did not go because it's also a very expensive hobby. And I didn't want to invest a small fortune just for us to go up and not have a good time. So about 5 years ago, my wife said, okay, if I'm warm enough, I want to do it. So I got every battery operated, heated piece of clothing you can imagine: socks, hats, vest. And it turns out she loves skiing. So now it's become something that we get to do together, which is awesome. And so our mountain of choice is Mount Hood here in Oregon, and we love going to Timberline. And what we love about Timberline is the lodge. It was built in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps, and they've done such a great job of just preserving the history and the nostalgia that you truly feel like you're stepping back in time when you go there. So we were on a trip last year, and as we were skiing down, I saw a sign and it said experts only. And something clicked, and I knew there was something there, and I never write title first. Usually I write something and 4 or 5 iterations of a title later it comes, but in this one, inspiration struck, and I went from there. So I would love to be a member of Ski Patrol in my own life, but I faint at the sight of blood, so that's not in the cards for me. But one of the perks of being a writer is we get to play pretend. So Cass Grazer, who is one of the main characters in this book, is a paramedic in her job, and then she volunteers for Ski Patrol on the weekends. At Mount Hood, she meets Michelle, who is much younger, newly single mother of 2. And so when they meet at the mountain, Michelle is trying to wrangle her kids together, and she's struggling trying to keep track of them. And Cass, who knows nothing about parenting, has a lot of opinions about her parenting, which does not go over well. So they don't get off to the best of starts, but then they slowly start to develop a friendship. So this scene here is they're back in the real world, they are off the mountain, and they are looking at what being friends looks like. Hi there. Michelle answered the phone after 2 rings. I wasn't expecting you to call. It's a lost art. Us elder millennials need to teach the younger generations what a phone is actually for. Excuse me? There was a time when all a phone could do was make calls. Did you know that there was even a time when if someone else called while you were talking to someone, it just beeped? No voicemail or anything? Sounds like the dark ages. How did you ever survive? Don't even get me started on dial-up internet. You had to pick between the phone or the internet. God, she sounded like such a dinosaur. Why exactly was Cass aging herself so much? It's a miracle you survived. You don't know the half of it. The real reason I'm calling is to see how you're. She couldn't stop wondering. Shell had infiltrated her brain in a way no friend had in a long time. She had helped friends through bad breakups before, but divorce with kids was a new level of messy. Oh, Michelle? Michelle, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Are you okay? Yeah, just surprised is all. No one has asked me that. How you're doing? Yeah, it's going okay. I think the kids are doing well. Tommy is finally sending me one-word texts, but I don't know where we're at in the process. I guess it's a trial separation. I don't know how long the trial is, though. How long do you want it to be? Huh. What? I haven't thought about that. Do you want to stay with him? I don't think so. Do you want to end the trial separation? I want to know where the heck things are going. I don't want to be in this constant state of limbo. Either rip the Band-Aid off or don't. As much as it sucks, maybe you're going to have to be the one to push things along. I always have to be the adult. Adulting fucking sucks. It really does. How are you? Same old, same old. Just finished my shift, about to hit the shower. Are you going up to the mountain this weekend? No, I only have 24 hours off. I picked up some extra shifts, so I'll be around. Both kids are at sleepovers tomorrow night. I don't know how this keeps happening. I used to look forward to the nights when I could get a minute of peace and quiet, but now I dread it. Well, I can invite you over here, but you have to promise not to judge. Why would I judge? It's lesbian movie night. Is that movies about lesbians or lesbians who watch movies? Sometimes it's both. I would never judge. I'm in. This week we're watching Alien. Isn't that movie ancient? Sigourney Weaver's arms are timeless. I guess we'll find out. What can I bring? Thank you.
Awesome. I love that. I love the intro the most. That was a great story. As someone who also doesn't like being cold or getting up early, I appreciate the effort that you went to make that happen for her. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Kit Meredith. Hi, Kit.
Hello.
I feel like I should have an entertaining story to start mine off now.
I mean,
I'm afraid I've mostly got the dialogue.
No, just go ahead and introduce yourself.
So yeah, I'm Kit Meredith, they them, and I write polyamorous queer romance for BSB. So this is from my latest polyamorous romance novel, which hopefully on the screen I can never see which side it's going to go. This side, that side. An extraordinary passion. So one of the characters, Hannah, is a podcaster, and the other is her guest host, Drew. And if you read my previous book, you might remember Drew, who was a secondary character in that story. Do you want to watch the original first or the modern one? Drew held up the two DVD cases. What kind of a silly question is that? Hannah reached out for the box with a distinctly 80s cover. Drew laughed. Fair enough. They had disagreed about which to watch in preparation for the next podcast recording, so had settled on watching both. I'll let you put it on. I don't know when I last worked a DVD player. Drew sank onto the sofa next to her. How much do I owe you for these? Assuming you're not converted and want to keep them. You keep them, but you don't owe me anything. Call it a reward for all your hard work. I know it's been a lot. Thank you. It was nice to have someone see and appreciate anything she did, unlike many spectators who felt entitled to demand more for nothing. It was tempting to offer to pay Drew back in a non-capitalist way, but she was determined to properly watch the film and had even texted them beforehand, confirming it was a clothes-on work date. They'd replied with a crying, laughing smiley and got it. Now that they were there within touching distance of her, she was starting to regret that boundary. She picked up a notepad off the coffee table. Should I be taking notes? Drew gave the pad a suspicious look. Only if you need to. I write it down so I remember, and because I'm not good at thinking about more than one thing. Oh, really? Drew replied with a smirk and reached for her thigh. Not that. She batted them away lightly with a notepad, though it was closer to the truth than they maybe realised. The notepad was a concrete reminder of what she should be thinking about, not the warm body next to hers. The original film wasn't one either of them had seen, which was strange given they both sought out queer content and had seen most classics. It slowly became apparent why. Well, now we know where they remade it. I'm glad we got both. Hannah couldn't think of anything better to say after it finished. Yep, and that we started with this one so we're not finishing on a downer. Drew stretched out their limbs, unfolding themselves from their position squashed up with her on the sofa. She hadn't managed to stay away for the entire film. Drew's cuddles were too good to pass up, but its bad vibe had temporarily dampened any sexual sparks. We don't know how the other one ends, Hannah said. I do. Well, I don't remember it all exactly, but I remember enough to know it was at least very, very queer. Drew winked at her. Hannah laughed. I guess it had a lot to make up for. Shall we pause for dinner before we start it? Yes, let's order. What do you fancy? Drew spread their arm along the back of the sofa and turned fully toward her. She picked back the cheesy line, you. What? Drew took in her silent study of them. What are you thinking? She should say nothing, despite it being untrue. It was always untrue. Why did anyone ever say that as if it was an innocent answer? Not about food. Drew grinned. Ditto, but I'm under strict instructions to keep it PG. She leaned in and kissed them lightly. Pretty sure that's still PG, nowadays anyway. Yep, thankfully we're past the days of having to fade to black. You should look that up, actually, and check the dates in terms of what was officially and unofficially not allowed when the first version was made. It may not have been the filmmaker's decision to cut out all the queerness. Good idea. Drew pulled their arm back with obvious reluctance. Hannah excused herself to get the takeaway menus, swerving the urge to lean back in for another less PG kiss. How did you find the poly meat, by the way? Drew asked when she returned. Good. It was nice to be around open people. It helped confirm for me that when I'm ready, that is the way I want to go. Go as in build relationships. It's hard to pull things apart, like how things went with my ex and what it's like to be poly, but I do think it's right for me. She hadn't been planning on discussing it with Drew, at least not yet, but it made no sense to hold back. I'm glad your ex hasn't ruined it for you. Drew gave her a smile and a shoulder nudge. So, was there anyone you want to see again? You mean apart from you? Yes. I know it's not a dating event, but sometimes people want to get to know each other more after. Hannah couldn't help feeling it was a trap, but reminded herself who she was talking to. I got on well with Olivia and Nick, but I've not made any plans, and I'm not sure I'm what they're looking for. Oh yeah? I hope they didn't make it weird in the end. Drew seemed to bite back something else, possibly what they'd already said at the time. At least they were learning. No, just they're looking for a deeper long-term connection than I'm interested in, at least with a couple. It's probably not the easiest place to start back in. Good call. They paused and looked her in the eye. So, where would you like to start? With you, obviously. But she held back, not knowing what that would mean still. I guess I need to figure out what I do want, and what it really means to be with someone where there's no prospect of marriage, mortgage, and all those standard commitments. Things had blown up with her ex before she'd had the chance to properly figure it out last time. Initially, the fact Drew was already married and happy living with their wife felt protective, because it meant they weren't expecting that from her. But it is confusing to start with. Like, we're taught that's what a committed relationship looks like, but you can be committed to someone you love without stepping on that relationship escalator. You show commitment how you want to, and pledge what you want to instead. I like that idea. Hannah let herself relax into the couch in the comfort of Drew's soft body next to her. Sure, the uncertainty was scary, but what was truly certain anyway? Drew wasn't saying they couldn't commit to each other. They were saying they could do it on their own terms, which was better, surely, especially given most of society's rules didn't make logical sense. So, you and Rebecca, you love each other and are committed. Like, if Lee told you she didn't want to be poly anymore, or she found your relationship threatening for some reason, you wouldn't just drop her. No, of course not. Lee wouldn't do that anyway. And if she suddenly did, then the issue would be in our relationship. And that's what we'd have to work out. Okay. Hannah's vision got cloudy and she pretended to look down at the menu in her hand. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. She sniffed back the tears and the lie. Obviously. Just, what would they think of her once they knew what she'd done? Guess it was time to find out. When that happened with my ex, when she told me to, she couldn't hold back the tears any longer, and they started to spill down her cheeks. Drew reached out to hug her, but she couldn't let them, not until they knew what she'd done. When she told me to end it, or that she'd leave if I didn't, I did it. I dumped my new love like she meant nothing. She looked down and let the tears cool her cheeks, which burned with shame. I wouldn't do it again, and it was the beginning of the end for us anyway. But I did do it. I threw her away like she didn't matter to me. But she did matter. She really did. Drew shifted towards her, and she couldn't read their facial expression when she finally dared look at them. At least it didn't look like outright disgust. They held out their arms again, and this time she let herself collapse into them. Of course she mattered. We all make mistakes and have to learn lessons, sometimes in the hardest way. She pulled back and looked at them again, to be sure. So you don't hate me now? No, I don't hate you. Not one bit. Then they kissed her, and she didn't even try to pretend it meant nothing. The love she turned her back on had mattered, and Drew mattered too. She wouldn't make the same mistake again.
Awesome. What a great intro to a poly romance. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Krystina Rivers. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Please go ahead, introduce yourself and your book.
I'm Krystina Rivers. I write sapphic romance here for Bold Strokes Books. Today I'm reading from my most recent release from the fall, Feeling Lucky. This is my 6th book, and I'm not going to give you much of a lead-in per Sandy's directions. So, let's go. Lucy pulled her phone out of her pocket as she walked back to her desk and turned airplane mode off. 3 texts popped up, all from Tanner. 9:15 a.m. I'm sure you're busy, but call me. 9:16 a.m. Seriously, call me. 9:18 a.m. I'm not playing. Call me as soon as you can, please. Lucy checked her watch. It was 9:55. What was wrong with Tanner? Had they won another $11? There was no way they'd won anything major, was there? Lucy's heart rate steadily picked up with a small surge of excitement, and she ducked around the corner into one of the small meeting rooms and pressed Tanner's name to call her back. As soon as Tanner said hello, Lucy said, so what? Did we win another $11? I'm at work, so this really isn't a great time. Are you alone? And are you sitting down? Tanner's voice was heavy and serious. Yes, I'm alone, but I don't have time to sit. Just tell me what's going on. I'm at work. Were you wrong? Did we actually lose? No, we didn't lose anything. We won. Lucy couldn't fathom what those words could mean. Like $1,000 or something? No, Lucy, like the jackpot. Like hundreds of millions of dollars. We matched all the numbers, including the Powerball. We won it all. Well, there was another winner according to the news, but Tanner could hear Lucy could hear Tanner's words still tumbling out of her phone, but she couldn't understand them. The phone slipped out of her fingers and clattered as it banged into the small conference table in front of her and skittered across it. Her brain felt like it was running a million miles a minute, yet she couldn't grasp any of the thoughts flying past. She didn't realize she sunk into the chair until the feel of the icy plastic jolted her through her thin dress pants. Lucy? Lucy? Tanner's tiny, tinny voice broke through her shock, and she reached for the phone. Are you still there? Lucy brought the phone back to her ear with shaky fingers. Yeah, sorry, just in a little shock here. You and me both. I told you to sit down. We're fucking millionaires. Tanner's voice sounded a little panicked as calmness settled over Lucy. It was probably still shock, but her thoughts cleared enough for her to start planning. We need to be level-headed about this. Have you told anyone yet? Lucy smoothed her fingers across a wrinkle in her pants. No, I've been sitting here close up in my office trying to not freak out, but I wanted to talk to you before anything. Her breathing was choppy and it sounded like she was about to hyperventilate. Good, that's good. Just breathe, Tanner. This is amazing news. We need to be thoughtful about this, though. We should keep it quiet, really quiet, until we know what we're going to do. Tanner took a breath that was loud even through the phone, and Lucy's ear vibrated when she exhaled. Yes, that's good. Good idea. We can't just go off half-cocked. Lucy's accountant brain was whirring with thoughts of tax sheltering as much of the proceeds as they could, and she needed more time to sort through all the possibilities. Exactly. We should act like nothing has changed and everything is totally normal until we figure it all out. Do you have the ticket with you? We should still meet after work today, but we can go open a safety deposit box and put the ticket there until we're ready to claim it. I think that's best. We need to talk to attorneys and accountants and wealth managers and figure out a plan of attack. Figure out the best way to approach taxes. Do we want an annuity or a lump sum? Lucy trailed off as she realized she was probably getting too in the weeds too soon with stuff that Tanner wasn't ready to think about. But until then, nothing rash, yeah? Yeah, Tanner said. Okay, what time can you meet this afternoon? Although Lucy wanted to do nothing but strategize, she knew if she wanted to stick to the nothing rash plan, i.e., not get fired, she needed to get back to her desk before Jagoff Jeff came looking for her. They made plans to meet later, and in the meantime, Lucy was going to figure out which bank still had safe deposit boxes. She was lost in her thoughts as she meandered back toward her desk, trying to remember the name of a place she'd heard of, when Jeff's voice thundered from his office. Crown! Fuck, she hadn't escaped. Yes, Jeff, she sighed as she redirected toward his office. She was sure his yelling of her name was intentional to make sure everyone in the office knew she was about to get a tongue lashing. Again. Knowing she was about to be a millionaire made her want to take the sweating glass of ice water sitting on his desk, probably making a ring on the wood, and throw it in his pasty, bearded face. Okay, that wasn't what made her want to do it, but it was what made her feel like an actual option in this situation. She hated the person that dealing with this place and Jeff had turned her into. But she reminded herself that she wasn't supposed to make any rash decisions. She was pretty sure lottery payouts took weeks, if not months, to get, and she needed to not make any waves. What happened with the phone earlier was really inappropriate and unprofessional. I can't believe you'd set such a poor example for the junior members of the team. He took off his reading glasses and twirled them by one arm as he stared. What a tool. Sorry, Jeff. I had an urgent family thing and someone kept trying to call and text me. I wasn't expecting it, but I turned my phone off as soon as I realized it was going to be a problem. Lucy felt disgusted with herself for pandering to him. Everyone in that damn room had their phones in their hands. The only reason hers was an issue was because it buzzed against the conference table while she was presenting rather than being sitting in her lap. You were an accounting supervisor at your previous firm before everything went belly up. Lucy ground her teeth and tried to remain calm. She'd actually been a senior accounting manager before Redford Reed had gone belly up, as he put it. The junior kids right out of school respect you. They look to you for guidance, though if they knew the shenanigans you'd gotten up to at Redford Reed, they might not. Lucy clenched her fists and tried not to tell Jeff everything she was thinking. You know that isn't true. If I'd been a part of any of it, I'd be in jail. I didn't work on that account, and I was never party to any wrongdoing. She wanted to tell him that an actual investigation had cleared her, but she knew the fact that she'd been investigated would have been more fodder for him, even though every single person in senior management had been investigated. He made a scoffing sound. Well, regardless, you shouldn't have your phone disturbing the whole meeting. I don't want to see your phone in that conference room again. What? Everyone in that room had their phones, but because mine buzzed on the table a couple times, my phone is banned? Clearly, you can't be trusted. He drummed the manicured fingertips of his right hand on the desk as he emphasized his words, and Lucy lost her ability to hold back. Flying below the radar, be damned. She'd figure it out. You know what, you pompous, narcissistic asshole? He shook his head, disgust curling around his mouth. Hey now, that's no way to talk to your supervisor. I expect respect from everyone who works for me. Luckily, you're not my supervisor anymore because I quit. I'm sure you can easily handle my workload yourself since you constantly demean my output, even though I handle more than twice the workload of anyone else in this department. I appreciate that you hired me when my resume was tainted, but I honestly think you did that so you could make me your punching bag. Well, those days are over. I'm done. Respect has to be earned, and you've never done a single thing to earn mine, so go find someone else. Lucy unclipped her access card from her waist and dropped it on his desk with a satisfying plunk, spun and stormed back to her desk. She grabbed her vegan leather messenger bag, stuck the energy bar she'd been planning to eat for lunch into it, and walked toward the elevator. You can't do this, Lucy. You can't just leave, Jeff sputtered as he followed her. What about the audit that you're working on that's due on Friday? The thing is, Jeff, I can. You made it apparent how much you don't value me. That isn't new, but what is new is that I remembered that I have a little self-worth. I don't need you or this job, and I'm sure you'll figure out the audit. My notes are in the file. She really hoped he lost all of her notes when IT got into her computer. She pressed the button to call the elevator. You'll never work in accounting again, ever, he said, his sleazy face red, a vein bulging in his forehead. Even if that is true, I will not demean myself further by working for someone like you. You're the worst kind of person. You pretend to be some caring boss, but really you're gaslighting everyone. You pump yourself up by making everyone who works for you feel lesser, inferior. You don't deserve the amazing team that you have in there. She hoped the entire bullpen heard every single word. Jeff opened his mouth, but the elevator doors slid closed between them as Lucy waved at him, smiling at the moral victory of getting the last word. And that's it.
Nice. Well, my boss is wonderful, of course, but I do appreciate that the balls to do that. I think we all have that like fantasy. There's always like one person, right, that you just want to like give them a piece of your mind.
Yeah, no, that boss was actually modeled over a previous boss of mine, and I did not quit in that manner, but I did light him up in my exit interview, and those are like all the things that I wanted to say to him on my way out the door. So that like really drew from like my personal well of anger.
Nice. Love that. Love that it shines through. Okay, next up we have Lissandra Rowe. Hello, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Lissandra Rowe. I'll be reading from my debut contemporary romance novel, Royal Rush, 75 Days to Fall in Love. The main character, Michaela, is the princess of a fictional island and must choose a wife within 75 days or risk being part of her father's succession plan. She falls unexpectedly in love with Isabella, though secrets and mounting political unrest threaten to derail everything before they get a chance to say I do. And to give a little background, without giving too much away, the scene finds Michaela in bed nursing a heartbreak-induced hangover with the help of her straight best friend, who has been by the princess's side since they were small children. And though the dialogue is decidedly lighthearted, the moment captures Michaela understanding two important truths at once. First, her heart is broken and she needs to cope with it. And the friendship that she's always depended on is evolving. So here she realizes that letting go doesn't always mean loss, and letting some dynamics change and learning how to stand without those gatekeepers isn't weakness, it's honesty and the beginning of something much stronger within her. Michaela groaned and threw her arm over her face as the morning sunlight streamed through her bedroom window and stabbed at her temples like a dagger. A bird somewhere in the distance cawed loudly, something Michaela was sure it was doing just to taunt her. Her stomach roiled as she rolled onto her side, and she wondered if she was starving for something greasy or ready to run into the bathroom and throw up. Dia, Michaela croaked, kill me, just off me right now. Dianara perched on the edge of her bed, already dressed for the day, and handed Michaela a glass of water and 2 ibuprofen. No need, she said. You did a fabulous job of that yourself last night. Michaela cracked an eye open and glared at her. She winced as she scooted to sit up in bed and pushed her tangled hair out of her face. God, I need a shower. Never let me drink that much again. I tried to keep things under control, Dianara said with a shrug. You were determined to self-destruct with vodka and bad decisions. Maybe it was too soon for Alejandro and I to drag you to tryst. We honestly just thought it would be good for you to get out of this depressing house for the night. It's not depressing, she replied stubbornly. She popped the painkillers and took a long swig of water. I have an amazing view from that deck. You wouldn't know it from the way you've parked yourself on that sofa downstairs anytime you're not in meetings, Dianara shot back. Lesson learned, I suppose. Vodka is not your friend, and maybe just hanging out at my place or Alejandro's residence would have been smarter than forcing you out to tryst. Michaela groaned again as she flopped back onto her pillows. I can't decide if I want a big greasy burrito for breakfast or if it'll make me puke in an hour, she sighed. At least I made a scene. A beautiful one. You were dressed to kill and daring anyone to look twice at you. Oh, and you danced very publicly and very suggestively with the DJ before you got all angsty and depressed about Isabella and told me you were ready to leave. I was proud of you for not taking it further with the DJ, though. She certainly would have been into it. But I know you would have woken up feeling 500 times worse than you do now. Michaela sighed. Thanks for looking after me, Dia. You know, I'm surprised, Dianara went on lightly. For someone who has such control over herself at all times, you were certainly playing the part of someone with a shattered heart last night. Michaela glared down at her legs beneath the thick comforter, but didn't say anything. Keep drinking the water, Dianara said. One of Teresa's people will be by shortly with menudo and huevos rancheros. Try to eat what you can. Michaela took a long sip of water as she sat up further. Her head still throbbed at the base of her skull and along her temples, but her mind was clearer now. As she glanced at Dayanara, something tugged at her. She recalled her conversation with Alejandro about Dayanara and Ian, though it felt so long ago now. Can I ask you something? Dayanara laughed. You just did, but sure. Michaela ignored her. I may have been a little drunk, but I remember Ian sitting with us for a while. You two still have feelings for each other. Why won't you try again? Dayanara faltered slightly as she glanced down at her hands. Honestly, Micah, because Ian's endgame has always been to move back to Ireland eventually. It's why we broke things off the first time. He wants to get married and start a family, but he wants to do that in Ireland and settle there so he can be close to his parents again. Michaela waited, sensing there was more. And I mean, Dayanara went on as she rubbed her temples. If I get back together with him, it's with this knowledge, and that would mean agreeing to move to Ireland. Not right away, but maybe in some months, a year. Ian even told me he would like to bring my mom with us so she's not here alone. Michaela shrugged. So, that sounds great. Don't you understand, Micah? If I move forward with Ian, that means letting go of everything in Kaiozul, including you. Letting go? Michaela asked. Micah, I've been your shadow since we were small children. I'm your unofficial lady in waiting. I've always been the one helping coordinate your meetings and events, accompanying you everywhere, making sure you don't spiral into royal madness. She laughed. You know, making sure you don't punch the wrong people. Michaela rolled her eyes good-naturedly. I don't punch people, and I'm not spiraling into royal madness. The point is, Micah, I've been by your side for so long, and it's been an amazing ride, like a dream. How many other women our age can say they're best friends with a literal princess, and oh yeah, she's actually a great person too? I don't know what it means to not be your companion every day. That scares me a little. Michaela was quiet for a long moment and then reached for her hand. I love you, but you're allowed to be happy, Daya, she said. Not that I think you're miserable, but I understand that you have your own life too, and that our paths may not always be meant to be walked side by side. If you have strong feelings for Ian, I want you to choose that, even if it means living in another country. What about you? What if you need me? Daya, we are 30 years old, she replied. You are the greatest friend I ever could have hoped to have. You're also a grown woman who deserves a life of love and happiness. And I am incredibly self-sufficient. Dayanara scoffed. Are you, Micah? Here you are, hungover from drinking yourself into oblivion, all because you won't admit your heart is broken and you're wallowing in the refusal to acknowledge that you're deeply in love with Isabella. Michaela took a deep breath. She's right. Okay, fine, she conceded after a moment. I made some questionable decisions last night, but it's not your burden to carry. We'll always be friends no matter what. Please don't stay here just because you think you have to or out of some sense of duty. You deserve to fall in love, and Ian is a great guy. Dayanara swallowed hard and shook her head with a chuckle. Damn it, Michaela, she said. Why are you making me emotional when you're the hungover one? Michaela laughed. Maybe heart-to-hearts are easier when my brain is half functioning. Dayanara wiped at her face. You'll have to work on that for Isabella's sake, she replied. You really think I should go for it with Ian? I know you should. That man can't stop looking at you. You'll be married in the Irish countryside before you know it. And by the way, I'd better be your maid of honor. Dayanara stood as the doorbell rang. Michaela wrinkled her nose and covered her ears at the high-pitched ding that seemed to reverberate extra loudly through her home. The kitchen works fast, Dayanara said teasingly. One hangover breakfast coming up. Michaela groaned again as she swung her legs over the side of the bed and grimaced as she ran a hand through her tangled hair. Thanks, Daya, she replied. I'm taking a quick shower to get last night off of me, and then I'll be right down. Michaela padded into the bathroom and turned the spray to its hottest setting. Despite the incessant throbbing in her skull and despite everything happening, she felt inexplicably lighter. It felt good knowing that no matter what happened next, her best friend would have love.
That's lovely. I think I'm not spiraling into royal madness is going to be the new catchphrase. I'm going to find a way to use it.
I had so much fun writing it.
So good. If everyone else can please rejoin. If anyone in the audience wants to ask a question, please pop it in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll pick it up from there. Since this group is about dialogue, I thought I would ask, like, what makes better dialogue? Should it sound like real life, or should it sound better and smoother and wittier than real life? Kel.
Well, I think one of the fun things about writing is you get to polish those comebacks that keep you up at 2 a.m. and all the things you wish you would have said.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a great opportunity to be able to showcase that. So while you don't want it to be, perfect, because people aren't perfect, you want it to be, as fun and as polished as maybe it can be.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Kate, how about you? Real life or more polished? Oh, we can't hear you. Sorry.
I keep doing that. Um, I forget the mute button's in a different place on this microphone. So yeah, I remember when I was studying linguistics at uni, and we had to do this exercise where we did a task together, just a pair of us, and then we recorded, and then afterwards we had to transcribe ourselves.
Mm.
And doing that exercise taught me that like everyone is so much less fluent and clear in what you're saying. I mean, I wish I didn't have to transcribe me as well because I talk fast and lots. So I felt I had an unfair disadvantage there. But yeah, that just made me so clear that like the way we write dialogue is nothing like the way we speak. I think the one thing that is similar to it is that it's less formal than when you're writing descriptions and stuff. And where you see kind of sometimes where dialogue doesn't ring right is where someone's written it very formally,
Yeah.
in a way that people just don't speak. But yeah, definitely needs to be more fluent than real life.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's a good point. Krystina?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot fewer ums when you're writing dialogue, unless there's a really heavy moment where somebody's trying to process their feelings. That's when the ums can come in dialogue that you're writing. But I think that, yeah, I mean, you want it to be polished, like Kel said, in the like witty comebacks that you wanted to have, like in that particular moment. But I think it is important to make sure that you're like walking a fine line with not being too formal about it. I know that is something that I actually work on, especially if I've like been at the office all day and I'm in business mode and then I'm like writing on my phone on the train coming home. Sometimes I'll like go back and read it, and I'll be like, oh my God, who is this? Like they have a stick shoved somewhere, like so formal, so uptight about things. And sometimes even my editor will call me out and be like, did you write this like while you were at work? So, right, I think it's similar to what we talk or how we talk, but more formal than how we talk, but not as formal as you could make it.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Lissandra, anything to add?
Yeah, I think to everyone's point, I try to balance it, right? I want my characters to be relatable. I don't want them to sound like, you're reading it and it sounds like, conversations you would never have or things you would never say. But it is nice to be able to include, that little bit of wittiness and, certainly it's a bit more succinct, than real in life conversations.
Yeah. So Krystina, you mentioned that you sometimes write a bit too formally when you're at work. What are some other challenges in writing great dialogue?
uh, I think finding a good flow sometimes and honestly getting the like dialogue tags exactly in the right spots and using a name versus a pronoun at the right time and just making sure that everything flows smoothly. I also think that sometimes you can just write like straight dialogue and like nothing is happening. Nobody's like tucking their hair behind their ear, nobody's taking a drink of their water, nobody's like tapping their toe or turning to look at when the door opened. And that I think makes for a very bland read. So you kind of have to, a lot of times I'll write a ton of dialogue and then I'll go back and I'll think, what do I think that person would be doing in this moment? Are they going to be distracted by somebody walking in the room? Like, do they have coffee in front of them? Do they have tea in front of them? There's something they can do to kind of break it up. What are they thinking about? Are they upset? Are they reacting in their minds to what this person's saying without speaking? So, right, it's finding that right flow without having too many interruptions to the dialogue, but not having too few either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have that problem too. If I had my way, the characters would just be in like a bare room talking to each other for the entire book and nothing would happen. Lysandra, how about you? Challenges to writing good dialogue?
Gosh, I would say for me, probably not being repetitive. That's the biggest thing for me. Cindy knows she's, edited both of my books. So yeah, I would say not being repetitive, not having these conversations where it's just, kind of info dumping and, balancing that like showing with telling.
Yeah. Yep, all good points. Kit, how about you? Challenges.
I think a couple of things for me. One of them is trying to make characters sound different to each other.
Mm,
Like it could be very easy to like have all of my characters just sound like me. I think particularly when you're writing dialogue, it's very easy to do that and trying to, but without like overdoing it in terms of like accents or in terms of where they come from. Um trying to get that background difference. And I think the other one is recognizing that like conversations in books aren't like in real life in that we'd have a full conversation. It's like the thing people always say that's like when you pick up the phone, like in a book, they dive straight in, whereas in real life, you don't. You've got lots of small talk and stuff. And you also don't end conversations in the way you do in a book. And I really struggle with that to start with. I wanted to write a real conversation when I was trying to make it realistically, but then it ends up one conversation being half the book. Learning to keep it succinct was a
yeah.
skill.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that actually. That like there's a lot of lead in real life.
Mm.
You're not just like, here's the issue, and then yeah. Okay. Kel, how about you? What are some challenges?
Yeah, Krystina nailed a lot of them for me. It's the how do you break up the dialogue so it's not just constant, but then for me, it's also not starting every sentence with okay, so because even though that sounds realistic, when you go back through and then search how many times you've said that, you can't have your character say that at a time. So trying to sound realistic but not be repetitive and make it all work somehow.
Okay. All right, a little bit of everyone's answers in there. Okay, so this is a dialogue group, but I'm interested in what characters don't say. So have you ever strategically used a character keeping something from somebody else, not saying what they really think or really feel? Anyone can jump in since that's a pretty hard question.
I think.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Kel.
I think with romance, a lot of it is not sharing feelings, right? So there's a lot of that tension in, am I feeling this? Am I not feeling this? And then when they finally say it out loud or say I love you out loud, then it's that much bigger of a deal. But I think really holding back on what they're truly feeling and admitting that to the other person is probably what I hold back the most.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. I mean, if somebody said like, "Ooh, I think you're very attractive. Let's go out," like the book would kind of be over half the time before it even gets started. Right. There has to be some reason to like push pull why they can't be together, and they can't say all that. So I think that is used all the time, not saying what people are thinking.
That's so
Definitely.
sapphic though. To be like to go from let's go out to I'm in love with you, the book's over. I feel like there's something in the middle that should happen, but okay. I'm sorry, I just interrupted.
I think for me, there's also the aspect of like writing introverted characters who naturally wouldn't say everything. So not just in the kind of way that like to create conflict and so that things aren't resolved too quickly, but actually just that naturally are people who hold things back and are scared of confrontation or disagreeing with people. So we'll be saying like no in their head, but saying yes out loud. And I think those are sometimes kind of those interesting conflicted characters. Or again, where it's an internal conflict where the character themselves doesn't know for sure what they want, like we all do in real life.
Yeah, for sure. Lissandra, how about you? Anything characters don't say?
I mean, I guess the most obvious one that comes to mind is my second novel, Changing the Game. One of the main characters is not fully out of the closet yet. So of course, us reading it, we all know that she's gay, but she's not really vocalizing that. So kind of trying to show that internal struggle without her throughout probably 2/3 of the book, being able to even vocalize it to herself or say it to herself or others. So that was that was challenging because we all know, but she's not supposed to be sharing that in the story. And that was just challenging in and of itself. Having to kind of go back and remember when I was a teenager and, kind of that struggle and, the things I would do to kind of try and throw people off my trail. So, that was a challenging one, but that's definitely one that comes to mind as far as her, keeping something, very important from most of the characters in the story.
Yeah, it's crazy how much like personal archaeology you have to do when you're a writer to dig back into your past and what things felt like at the time. So what is your favorite kind of dialogue to write? Do you like the witty banter? Do you like the characters who get on a soapbox? Do you like writing arguments? What's your favorite kind? We'll start with Kit.
I think for me, I like kind of the conversations, the best friend and the person. So someone who knows them really well and kind of pushes them, knows how to push their buttons and also knows how to push them out of themselves and towards things. Because yeah, the difference between that conversation, yeah, two people who know each other extremely well. Which yeah,
Yeah, I think
flows differently than
yeah.
new people.
Yeah, a good friend can get away with saying things that,
Exactly.
someone else would get in trouble for sure.
And you can say stuff you wouldn't say to a love interest that you could say to your
Yeah.
long-term best friend. Yeah.
Kel, how about you? Your favorite kind of dialogue?
I think dialogue is a great chance to show the personality of a character, especially a side character whose head we don't get into. So I like all of it because it's a chance to really show how that person reacts in the moment and more of who they are.
Okay. I like that point about secondary characters too. That's a good one. Lissandra, favorite kind of dialogue?
Yeah, I like the witty banter too. Selfishly, it's really fun to write, once you kind of start getting into those characters' heads. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to write. It's a good way to show a lot of the different character personalities, things about them, things about who they are as a person. And then I find too, once you kind of start writing the witty banter, it flows really well.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I like the witty banter. I think I like to read it more than write it. There's so much pressure in writing it, but you're really good at it, so I can see why it works for you. Krystina.
I really love to write like the beginning part of Enemies to Lovers, where there's like a lot of like kind of like I don't know, like sharp little barbs, but like flirting all at the same time. Like if you can like work in like a second chance with an enemies to lovers and in their little interactions where they're like so annoyed with each other and yet they find themselves flirting all the time, that is hands down my favorite dialogue to write.
I love that. Okay. All righty. We have 2 minutes left. So since I did not allow you to give very much context in your reading, why don't we use these 2 minutes to plug your book? Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, the one that you read from today? We'll start with Krystina.
So today I read from Feeling Lucky. This came out like I think in October, September, somewhere last year. And it is about Lucy and Tanner. She used to be on top of the world and then kind of everything fell apart. She's in a horrible job. Obviously, she has a douchebag for a boss and is like stuck, like she's on the cusp of divorce, but like her ex won't like sign the divorce papers and she can't afford to move out. And so life is just really hard for her right now. And then Tanner is a construction supervisor. She is loving life. She moves every 18 months, gets to go to a new city. Like she just lives the life with her dog traveling everywhere. And they are walking down a city street and are both trying to grab a piece of litter that's blowing down the sidewalk. They pick it up. Turns out it's a lottery ticket, which you now know has hit for millions and millions of dollars, since that was part of the reading today. And the rest of the book is just about how they kind of navigate lives once this has happened. And Lucy's ex is really horrible and comes back to rear his ugly head. So,
Well, that's sad, but happy for the millions. Kel, how about you? Tell us about Experts Only.
So Experts Only takes place at Mount Hood, Oregon. Cass Grazer is a habitually single paramedic. She's never been in a real relationship before. Rochelle has only been with one man who then she married and had 2 kids with. So now she is learning about life as a newly single woman who's also interested in women. And the two of them come together.
Nice, lovely. Lissandra, Royal Rush.
All right, Royal Rush is set on a fictional island in the Mediterranean, and our main character is Princess Michaela, who her parents are ready to begin winding down their royal duties and begin a succession plan in which she will be the next leader of the island. And they have a caveat that she must choose a wife within 75 days or risk being part of this succession plan. So at first she's super pissed, right? As anyone would be. She doesn't think that a spouse is necessary to prove her leadership. And so at a party that is held in her honor, she unexpectedly meets Isabella, who is there by chance. And so they kind of begin this attraction, this chemistry, and all the while that they're falling in love, there's secrets, there's mounting political unrest, there's a lot of things kind of going on in the background with Michaela's family, with Isabella's family, and with some dissent going on certain parts of the island. So navigating all of that is what the story is about.
Awesome. Love that. So much in there. And Kit.
Yes, so Strong New Passion, which I think is up on my background as well as in front of me. So it's the second book in my poly romance series, although it can be read as a standalone, I think I mentioned, and stars Drew, who is a secondary character in the first book. So Hannah's a podcaster and she runs a book podcast. And her and Drew meet on that podcast when they're a guest on the show. And then they start getting more involved in the podcast and also with each other when they bump in and realise they're neighbours. And end up in each other's lives more. And then there's the kind of push and pull around. Drew's got a bit of a hero complex, as they tend to put it, a tendency to get very passionate and involved in things, and so ends up becoming over-involved, and there's kind of conflict there. And at the same time, Hannah's recovering from a divorce, as mentioned in there, and a marriage breakdown, and not sure whether she's ready to get into another relationship and navigating that. So it's about kind of how them both working through those issues and come to the point where they can support each other to be together.
Lovely. That sounds awesome. All right, please check out those great books. I put all the links in the chat for you. And join us in just a few minutes for our next panel is Conflict Overrated in Romance, moderated by Radcliffe. So thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.